evening, everyone. Hey, I have a fun little episode lined up for you today. First of all, before we get started, I have to mention that I officially have super chats now. I could not possibly be more excited. If you guys want to super chat me, go for it, and I will read your super chats at the end of the stream. I'll probably also read part of the general chat as we go along, because it's always good. I love engaging with you guys as we get going. So today I have probably a somewhat controversial take on what the GOP is about to do wrong as 2024 is looming. I hope that you guys don't take offense. You're welcome to tell me that you disagree with me. I lost a few subscribers yesterday for holding this particularly spicy viewpoint as a member of the conservative right, and you guys can tell me what you think as we go. But I will prepare a whole case for you, and you guys will be forced to decide whether you agree or disagree. So let's get right into it. So before we get started, I have to say that the GOP did some things great in this last election. Now, we did not have the red wave we wanted. I don't think that GOP leadership is exactly who we want them to be. I don't think that they are on the right direction as far as it comes to making good things happen for the GOP. And I think that we need a complete upset. We need to clean house. Time to fire everybody and make it happen. But there are a few things that they managed to do well on the individual state levels. And I know this based on some of the articles that we're seeing come out today. So this first one you guys are going to enjoy from the New Yorker was about education freedoms. This is about school choice. And if the New Yorker is talking about it, you know it's going to be good. So let's get into it. How education freedom, scare quotes, played in the midterms. In superintendent and school board races, candidates' fear-mongering about unions and critical race theory fared depressingly well. Interesting take, interesting framing. I appreciate that. Let's see what Jessica Winter has to say. Ellen Weaver, South Carolina's newly elected superintendent of education, borrowed the sloganeering and buzzwords of right-wing activist groups in her campaign. Interesting. The 2022 midterm elections offered many snapshots of the contemporary school wars, but one might start with the race for superintendent of education in South Carolina, a state that languishes near the bottom of national education rankings and that's suffering from a major teacher shortage. Lisa Ellis, a Democratic candidate, has 22 years of teaching experience and is the founder of a nonprofit organization that focuses on raising teacher pay, lowering classroom sizes, and increasing mental health resources in schools. Her Republican opponent, Ellen Weaver, who has no teaching experience, is the leader of a conservative think tank that advocates for, quote, education freedom in the form of more public funding for charter schools, private school vouchers, homeschooling, and microschools. Oh no, that sounds terrible. Let's read more. Choice is truly, as Condi Rice says, the great civil rights issue of our time, Weaver stated in a debate with Ellis last week. In the same debate, Ellis argued that South Carolina does not have a teacher shortage, per se, rather it has an understandable lack of qualified teachers who are willing to work for low pay in overcrowded classrooms in an increasingly divisive political environment, a dilemma that is depressingly familiar across the country. Depressingly seems to be quite the theme of this article. Ellis also stressed that South Carolina has fallen short of its own public school funding formula since 2008, leaving schools billions of dollars in the hole. Weaver countered that the state could easily persuade non-teachers to teach so long as they had some relevant subject matter expertise, heavy on the scare quotes in this article too, and warned against, quote, throwing money at problems. I hope that she presented the case of New York City schools because those are some of the best funded schools in the country and they have abysmal education rates. It's no joke to say that throwing money at the problem is not actually a solution to the problem. The article goes on to say the salary floor for a public school teacher in South Carolina is $40,000. I'd be curious what the cost of living is in South Carolina. Let's go down to the bottom of this article and see what they ultimately conclude, which is where all theses should be. Oh boy. Good times. The emotional tone continues. The tragedy of the post-pandemic school crisis crystallized in Deskovich's tweet and in many of Tuesday's election results lies in how it has heightened the adversarial relationship between two groups whose interests should be closely aligned. Or indeed, one and the same, many teachers are parents. As beleaguered as they are, most public school systems are not yet splintering along DeVosian lines into a privatized mix of living room salons and strip mall micro schools. Until then, public school parents will continue to hand their children off to public employees in a public building for 6 hours per day or 8 or 9. A degree of trust in these educators' qualifications, their good faith, and even their state of mind is non-negotiable. Okay, so she literally just said public school parents are just handing their kid off to the state for 6 to 9 hours per day. That should horrify every single reader of this article. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. A degree of trust in these educators' qualifications, their good faith, and even their state of mind is non-negotiable. Well, Project Veritas just dropped some fascinating stuff from a school, I believe in Vermont, where an administrator was placed on leave for saying disgusting things about his students. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out on Twitter. That's what it's for, or that's where it's located. Poor working conditions for teachers are necessarily synonymous with poor learning conditions for students. Overcrowded, underventilated classrooms are at once a political issue, a labor rights issue, and a children's rights issue. Something the members of Moms for Liberty say a lot is, we don't co-parent with the government. Don't we, though? No, you don't. And you shouldn't have to. You should have a choice as to where your children go. If you are capable of homeschooling your children, that's what you should do. You should be given, I never understood. So my parents homeschooled me and all 5 of my siblings for the majority of our years. And I don't think they didn't complain about it, but it never made sense to me why they were paying taxes that were going into a school system that none of their children ever used. My parents never benefited from that system. Not once did they ever drop their kids off and say, okay, see you in 6 to 9 hours after the state has their fill of you. That's insanity to me. I don't think that parents who are homeschooling their children should be forced to put money into this ridiculous education system. It is entirely correct to say we don't solve problems by throwing money at them. 100%. I think that if you are having a problem with overcrowding in your classrooms, you should welcome the concept that parents might take their kids out and put them somewhere else. But they talk at length about how the children are technically the property of the state. I take grave exception to that. I have a serious problem with that. I don't see that as being a winning strategy for them in the long run at all. I think they deserve to lose this in this election, and they deserve to lose it going forward. So Corey DeAngelis wrote the contrary opinion about this in the Wall Street Journal. He says the school choice election wave, even Democrats are adapting to the new political realities. Good for him. Corey is a strong proponent of education choice. It may not have been a red wave or a blue wave, but there was a nationwide school choice wave. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was the biggest victory of the night for parents. In 2018, William Maddox of the James Madison Institute argued in these pages that the unexpected support from minority women, whom he dubbed school choice moms, accounted for his narrow victory that year. On Tuesday, Mr. DeSantis won by more than 19 points overall and by 11 points in Miami-Dade, a county that favored Joe Biden by 7 points in 2020. That's mind-boggling. This is a huge issue. And I don't know if you guys recall this, but way back before the election, I was talking about how Democrats were turning parents into a voting bloc, and I said that I didn't think that would be a good idea. Indeed, it was not, and this is exactly what I was talking about. These are the things parents care about. It's not just education choice, it's also the school boards and the teachers' right to teach their kids whatever they want. If you guys follow Libs of TikTok on Twitter, she's constantly posting videos from teachers who put them on TikTok expressly for the purpose of proving that they believe in these woke bona fides. They're talking about gender. They're talking about what percentage of their classes are now bi or trans or however they're identifying right now. They're actively influencing their kids. They know they're influencing these kids. They understand that children are susceptible to peer pressure, and they're running with it. This is the quality of teachers we have. These are the people they're trying to raise the pay for, and I'm glad that thus far this hasn't been the case in South Carolina. These people who are pushing this kind of mindset on innocent children who are placed into a state school deserve no pay raise. That is not the least. They deserve a lot more than no pay raise, but no pay raise is a good place to start. So let's see how Corey closes this one out, because I think this one's relatively short. After Tuesday night, it's clear that for both parties, it's now becoming politically profitable to support education freedom. That's because parents have woken up. For far too long in K-12 education, the only groups that commanded politicians' attention were unions representing the employees in the system. Now the kids have a union of their own, their parents. I love that so much. It's such a great conclusion, and I'm so happy to see that. Again, I've always thought that parents who just handed their kids off to the state were being very irresponsible. This has been such an experiment that's so clearly failed, and I think that we should all take heed from what's coming out of this election and move with it. All right, so this political article is touching again on DeSantis and how conservatives scored more Florida school board wins. Related choice. He picked a whole bunch of school board people, and they ended up succeeding widely. DeSantis is thought to be the first Florida governor to endorse school board members, a move that spurred Democrats to follow suit. Interesting. Very interesting. All 6 school board members endorsed by Governor Ron DeSantis won their runoffs Tuesday, results that deliver the Republican governor a total of 24 wins out of 30 local education candidates he backed this year. That is amazing. I want more GOP governors to do this, 100%. I want them to take a bunch of other pages out of DeSantis' book, but they should absolutely all be doing this. Anyone who doesn't understand that caring about school boards is where this all begins is a lost cause. This is 100% where it starts. This is the underlayment for your other philosophical issues on which you build your political philosophy. Democrats fought against DeSantis administration policies by pointing to the teacher shortage gripping Florida and student test scores that show a drop-off since the pandemic. Yeah, okay, so pointing out that kids have failing test scores is probably not a compelling argument for telling people that they have to keep their kids in these schools. And it's a strong case for educational freedom. So while we're talking about DeSantis, let's look at something that no one else has, I think, considered. This is a tweet from Benji Backer, if you guys follow him on Twitter. I just use Twitter for everything. This is why I love Twitter so much. It's such a useful resource. I literally have a chat where I can just be like, hey, has anyone seen this video from fill in the blank? A video we're going to get into shortly that I had to ask for in my group chat. That's very interesting. Interesting commentary on where the GOP as a whole is at. DeSantis is succeeding, the GOP is failing, and this should explain why. One thing that should not be overlooked with Governor Ron DeSantis is his strong environmental record. Environmental issues are important to every Floridian, and he's led from the front with solutions. It's an important differentiating factor for him that attracts youth and independence. Benji is not incorrect on this. I think this is something that Gen Z deeply cares about, and I'm not convinced that this isn't the ticket to winning Gen Z's heart. Real NC Fishing, I'm assuming from his handle that he cares deeply about fishing, says, yep, from an angler perspective, he seems to have done well with water quality so far. Most recent example that comes to mind, and he leaves an article about a water bill that DeSantis vetoed that would have significantly affected the water quality in Florida. I did not get into the water quality in Florida, if you can believe it. I just wanted to highlight that this is something that DeSantis has also been working on. So he cares so much about the state that he's in that he recognizes the biggest issues affecting Floridans, and he chooses to speak to that, and he makes it an issue. And I really think that's an inroad that the rest of the GOP would do well to follow. Yeah, so here's one of the examples. He signed a bill creating a resiliency office to address flooding and sea level rise, which is a state-dependent issue. So he clearly cares so much about where he's at, and he works so strongly on the state level that it doesn't matter to him. Partisanship doesn't matter. He only cares about Floridians being safe, healthy, having access to clean water and floods. This is why they say that Hurricane Ian actually helped his bid for re-election. Kind of interesting. I remember they had that picture of him from when he was walking with somebody, and they were like putting these high, tight white boots on him or something because he was wearing, waders that just so happened to be white. And I was like, is this all you have? Is this your attack ad? I was like, what are you guys doing? Do you realize that you literally have nothing and that you could actually get something accomplished in Florida if you decided to team up with DeSantis instead of just making fun of him? They're just going to double down. They're going to keep calling him names. They're going to keep posting these ridiculous pictures that don't even prove anything. And we'll see what happens. I'm curious how that plays out for the Democrats in the long run, because it wasn't that long ago that Florida was, in fact, a purple state. Not purple anymore. Red, like, through and through after DeSantis. And that is an incredible accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. However, there is a little bit of a hiccup when it comes to DeSantis having political influence in the country. Very glad he's working well in Florida. The issue arises when Donald Trump raises questions about his voting ability in Florida. Governor DeSantis won in a landslide in Florida, and like the same day, Trump was asking about his voter count and comparing it to his presidential bid in the state, which struck me as very vindictive and very petty. I don't know if you guys recall, I did not pull this one up, but Trump was talking about how he has some kind of dirt on DeSantis, that nobody knows him better than Trump other than his wife. And I was so sketched out by that. And Andy and I were talking about this yesterday because we talk a lot about the role that hypocrisy has played in the GOP as far as Trump goes. Trump is operating like a TMZ president, and I don't think that's what the GOP wants right now. I don't think it's what we need, and I don't think it's what we want. I think it's just it's just completely inconsistent with everything that the GOP holds near and dear to us. The other thing we're going to talk about is GOP leadership lying, and we'll talk about some of the GOP leadership that's getting rid of Trump. But let's see what he did in the midterms. While some of Trump's picks lost or underperformed, Governor Ron DeSantis dominated in Florida, heating up talks about who the GOP nominee should be in 2024. We are going to look at the predicted numbers on Trump versus DeSantis. This is where people put their money where their mouth is. And they say, I'm going to bet on this person over this person. I will show you the day that changed and what direction it went and now where it's at today. All right, so this is predicted. Who will win the 2024 Republican presidential nomination? Not the election, just a nomination. Ron DeSantis, top of the list, 43 cents, 35 cents. Ron DeSantis has come up 2 cents. Trump has come up 1 cent. Pence is way far behind. Youngkin, those people don't stand a chance. So let's look at this interesting little graphic, and let's look at these dates. Do you see this here? We have November 7th. Trump was at 45 cents. DeSantis was at 28%. 8th of November, DeSantis, 38 cents. Trump, 33 cents. So on this day, over the course of the day of the midterms, public opinion turned against Trump. Why? What happened there? I'm not practicing TDS here. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing. And I'm showing you Trump's behavior as such, I don't know what you would call him, like an anti-hero. He's being an anti-role model. I do not appreciate what he's doing right now. Don't get me wrong. He was 100% the bull in the china shop that we needed at the time. I was still disappointed that he didn't fire everyone. Very disappointed that he went through with lockdowns. Disappointed that he went through with blowing out the budget. Multiple disappointments. I've always been disappointed with, politicians. No one I've ever voted for has actually won, so take that with a grain of salt. But this is so telling to me, because this isn't just who people want to win. This is who people are willing to stake actual real-world money on. I just thought that was so interesting, and I really kind of want to share this on Twitter moving forward, but I digress on that point. There are other GOP leadership who are moving away from Trump, and one of the most recent people who have done that is Winsome Sears, which is Virginia's GOP lieutenant governor, who will not back Trump in 2024, quote, I just couldn't. I don't know if you guys remember Winsome Sears. She was awesome. She ran with Governor Youngkin. Virginia Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears said on Thursday that she would not support former President Trump running again for the White House if he declares his candidacy, as he is expected to do next week. Sears told Fox News' Neil Cavuto, I don't know how his last name is pronounced, that Trump had numerous accomplishments with the economy and with public safety, but she said voters showed in the midterm elections that they want the Republican Party to have a different leader. You guys are welcome to disagree with her if you so choose. I do think that the candidates that ran without Trump endorsement or without Trump encouragement did the best. DeSantis certainly did not have Trump backing, and he blew it out of the water. Did Lee Zeldin have Trump's endorsement? I'm not sure. I'll have to look at that in just a minute. Republicans were hoping for a red wave to lead the party to significant gains in the House and Senate in the midterms. Democrats outperformed the polls in many races. GOP appears likely to win control of the House, but the margin will be much narrower than expected. Which party will control the Senate is uncertain. Many Trump-backed candidates in key House, Senate, and gubernatorial races have either lost or are in significant jeopardy of losing, and several Republican strategists and aides blamed Trump for the losses in what looked like winnable races. I also don't think that's entirely fair. I don't think all of this was Trump's fault. I think a lot of this was GOP leadership spending money on the wrong races, and I have no explanation for why they chose to do that. They sank a bunch of money into deep blue districts that they knew they couldn't win, while letting much closer races go by the wayside, and that just blows my mind. It makes no sense to me. Oh, let's go on. Here is an example of our wonderful, firm, sterling GOP leadership. Let's talk about Ronna McDaniel. RNC Chairman Ronna McDaniel. We never use the word red wave at the RNC. The wave did happen because we are waving goodbye to Speaker Pelosi. Let's listen. That's a lie. The wave did happen because we're waving goodbye to Nancy Pelosi. Okay, first of all, an ocean wave is not the same as actually waving goodbye, which Ben Shapiro talked about for sure. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Yeah, you guys can't hear it. Oh, boo. Okay, well, this is just the direct quote. We never use the word red wave at the RNC. The wave did happen because we're waving goodbye to Speaker Pelosi. And then she's talking about how a bunch of people won. Technically, this was a red wave. I'm sorry, you weirdos just didn't recognize it. Infuriating. She is literally just lying, and I can show you because Jack Posobiec, of course, with all the receipts, in Battleground, Wisconsin, Kenosha County just elected the first Republican county executive in history. Hashtag red wave. This is the year a red wave sweeps across the country. This is her saying this. This isn't just the GOP. Literally her. Oh my gosh, this is infuriating. So again, this kind of lying is not what we're looking for when we look for leadership with the GOP. This is on par with Trump being a horrible role model. This is exactly what I'm convinced this is exactly why we're not winning. We either have weak men like McCarthy or weak men like McConnell, and there is no... How are you supposed to succeed if you're trying to push truth and your own leaders are lying when it comes to what they said and didn't say? It's really frustrating to see this happening with the GOP. If you guys are willing to if you guys are willing to give me a counter explanation, by all means, for sure. Lids, read the chat. I did. I heard that you guys could not hear what I was going through. That's fine. We've had success watching videos together before, but I'm not sure why this time wasn't the case. But either way, Ronna McDaniel is lying. Donald Trump is not being a role model, and I'm not convinced we should run him in 2024, especially given that people are literally willing to put money on DeSantis, at least at this point. I'm curious what Trump has to say on his post-election announcement that he's now pushed back until after this weekend, I think it was his idea. I'm genuinely curious. I think that if he has the interest of the party, here's the issue. I don't think that he has the interest of the party at heart. I think that he has his own interest at heart. And I think that's exactly why he gave DeSantis this weird little nickname. And that's why he's sniping at him, saying things like he knows things that, nobody else knows except his wife. I'm grateful for Trump. He was the person we needed to be at the time. I did vote for him in 2020. I didn't vote for him in 2016 because he seemed too much like a wild card for me. I actually placed my vote for the Libertarian, which we'll see if that ever happens again for sure. But anyway, I digress a little bit. I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys. The GOP has some strong ideas. If the GOP candidates would get on the same page with messaging, if they would push the same things that are successful in their individual states, I think that we could have a massive blowout in 2024 because we know that the Democrats are going to double down on their ridiculous social justice woke nonsense. I am concerned that the GOP is also going to double down on what worked in 2016. I don't think it's going to work again. I think that was an anomaly. I think it was a strange twist of fate that Trump was elected. First of all, I don't think the Democrats are ever going to let something like that happen again. They're going to do everything in their power to refuse to allow that to ever take place again. But I don't think that Trump is the right person for the job. I think we need a person who cares about the country as much as Ron DeSantis cares about his state. I think we need someone who's focusing on the stuff that Gen Z cares about, like the environment. And I think that the GOP writ large is never going to come to terms with that. And I think that I think that all the awesome candidates who are running under the platform, under the umbrella of the GOP, would be better off doing their own thing, because the GOP is apparently not sinking money where it needs to go and not actually fighting for the people who really need the best chance at winning their elections. But I digress. I am very angry with the GOP following this ridiculous midterm. There is absolutely no excuse for what happened. Over 3/4 of people are incredibly upset with the state of the nation. And for the GOP to offer no solutions is just mind-boggling to me. And you guys, I don't think you guys understand. I have cared deeply about the GOP for my entire life. Are you kidding? I was on board with George W. Bush because I remember 9/11. I was alive for that. I was like, oh, this is great. You know, everybody loves George W. Bush now. I think this is awesome. Obviously, I've changed my mind about him, but I have always, even when sitting in the room with the rest of the IRL guys, I was like, no, I care about the GOP. I think it's really important what they're doing. They are falling apart. Their leaders are lying. That's disgusting. I don't approve of lying from any side of the aisle. In fact, I get more wound up when it's coming from my side than it is when it's coming from the left. Our side, my side, this is very personal to me. We're supposed to be better. We're supposed to care about the truth. We're supposed to care about actually getting things done. And I don't think that this is the way forward. I don't think Ronna McDaniels should even be in position after this. I don't think that Kevin McCarthy, I know that Mitch McConnell is an extremely smart, studious politician. I think Nancy Pelosi is too. That doesn't mean I think highly of them. I don't think they're going to tell us the truth. I don't think they're going to come to terms with the way the world is now, and they're not going to recognize that they're going to need to meet Gen Z where they are. If we learned anything from this midterm, I think the biggest takeaway is that we have to meet Gen Z where they're at. And I think that's something worth doing. We need to give those people something worth aspiring to. And I don't think Donald Trump is where it's at. I don't think Kevin McCarthy has it. And I don't think Ronna McDaniel does either, because she can't even tell the truth. But I'll wrap it up here. Let me see what we have in the way of super chats. I'm so excited about that. We have a few. Hello, Lydia. Hello, Andy. Oh my gosh, I only see one. But I know we had more than that. Oh no, don't disappear on me. Okay. People spilling tea. Messy, you're okay. Get a coffee. I'm not sure. People spilling tea in relation to Donald Trump. That one's from Keenan. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. First super chat vid. Woo! Congrats, Lydia. Thank you, Sir Ranko Productions. All right, we got the sticker. Good job. Thank you. Haha. Hi, Linda. Glad you got the super chats now. Loving this show. That's from my pal Ben, driving around the country. Good times. Thank you all very much for tuning in for this coronation of super chats on the lids. You guys are free to yell at me and tell me how great Trump is. You will not convince me. That's okay. Trust me. I've reached my own conclusion. I cared very much about Trump for a very long time. I was with him all the way through all the impeachments, all the Russiagate stuff. But to me, this looks like entirely his own doing. I would never have turned my back on him when the media was coming after him, because I actually do believe that the media is truly the enemy of the American people on pretty much every level. But I don't think that Donald Trump is the correct fighter for this particular stage of the game. Take it or leave it. Don't really care. You guys can tell me what you think. It's fine. I can handle it. I know that so many people care so much about Donald Trump. We have to do what's going to make a better world for our children. And I don't think that Trump is the person to do that. And as someone who's trying to grow my own family, I'm very much in favor of someone who will do what's right by future generations. But again, I digress. All right, you guys, I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. We will have super chats then. Oh, hey, Adrian. How's it going? Oh, she says, Trump woke me up. No one else. I never cared about the GOP and personalities. Still don't. I shall wait and watch. Yeah, I think we're all just going to have to wait and watch. And I do think that's a good note to end on. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. But until then, bye, guys.